Today in this video, we're gonna go over what it's really like to live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. My name is Evan Barron, and I've lived in the area for about 6 years now. I grew up traveling around the world essentially, and I've called Chattanooga home. In this video, we're gonna go over a lot of questions that I get asked all the time about people wanting to move here. And I think if you stick around, you'll find a lot of value if you do plan on making the move to Chattanooga. So we're gonna start off with question number one, which is, what are the people like here? So Tennessee is a very long state, and it's made up of a few major cities, starting with Memphis, Nashville, Chattanooga, Knoxville, and then the Tri-Cities, Kingsport, Johnson City, and Bristol. Chattanooga itself is kind of like in a middle ground, right? So as a general rule, the more dense an area is, the more liberal politics there will be. And as you go a little bit further out, as you get more rural, then people tend to hold more conservative belief. No one's trying to shove their beliefs down your throat. It's a very live and let live type of community and environment here. If you're a good person, other people will be good to you as well. Southern charm is actually a real thing down in the South as well. People will wave at you, people will shake your hand, they'll smile, they'll talk to you, and they will treat you really well as if you were family. One thing that a lot of my clients that I help out move this way is something that they mention is the people are very friendly. You got a lot of people coming from Florida and New York and California, and everyone's always smiling at you, everyone's always trying to shake your hand and talk to you. That's one of the reasons why I love it here. People are just really chill and nice. And question number two is, what is the cost of living like here in Chattanooga? I really need to create a separate video, which it'll be coming soon, but this information can get really outdated really fast. If you're keeping up with the state of the economy, things are changing constantly. So as of today, in June 2024, it's still relatively cheap to live here compared to other parts of the United States. If you're doing some home searches, you'll realize that the real estate just continues to go up. The prices are continuing to increase, right? But we have to look at other factors that affect cost of living, because it's not just real estate, right? It's taxes. Tennessee does not have a state income tax. It's property taxes. The property taxes in Chattanooga and Tennessee in general are very, very low, especially compared to states like Texas or Florida. We're talking cost of gas, food, daycare, groceries. If we're looking at it from a holistic point of view, it is still very affordable to live here. But if you're looking to buy a house, the real estate's going up. For example, the median home price is now $440,000 in Chattanooga. So you're gonna be paying around $220 a square foot. Now, this is largely dependent on the immediate area that you live in Chattanooga. For example, like a mountain community on Signal Mountain or Lookout Mountain, it's going to be a lot different from a suburb in Hickson or Ottawa. If you guys are looking to move to the Chattanooga area, I am a licensed realtor, so feel free to reach out in any of the ways down below, and I'll be absolutely happy to help you guys out. We specialize in relocation from people all over the country, and we'd be glad to help your dream come true as well. So that leads me to question number three, which is, what are some reasons why you don't like living in Chattanooga? So for me personally, point number one is the beach. Listen, it's obvious. You don't have the beach here. We do have lakes and rivers and streams and creeks, which are amazing. Me personally, I love taking vacations to the beach, but obviously Tennessee is landlocked. Now, what we do have is lakes and rivers. And if you love water sports, if you love boating, then we do have plenty of options here. There's really just not that many negatives to living here, to be honest with you, that I have. So I had to mention that. But a positive of living here is Chattanooga's location, right? So Chattanooga is pretty much seated right in the middle between four major cities: Birmingham, Nashville, Knoxville, and Atlanta. So if you need to go to a major city for whatever reason, you're gonna be driving 2 hours to Atlanta, you're gonna be driving 2.5 hours to Nashville, an hour and a half to Knoxville, and 2 hours to Birmingham. So it's super close to these major cities. And if you wanna go to the beach, it's only a 6-hour drive down to 30A in Destin. So I know I kind of just switched one of the reasons why I don't like living here into a positive, but it truly is a positive. Number two is power lines, right? So in some of the areas in Chattanooga, and this is Tennessee in general, a lot of times they don't have underground utilities. And this is just a personal preference. And this is something that I've kind of noticed over time. When you have a jumble of wires, it just looks messy. right? It's not aesthetically pleasing. And so that's something that I've kind of developed an annoyance over, but it's, it honestly doesn't compare to the positives of living here. Number 3, Chattanooga is growing at such a rapid pace. You have so many different people moving here, which is awesome. But what happens with that is Chattanooga is getting a little bit more traffic here and there, right? It's growing at a steady pace. When I first lived here, there really wasn't that much traffic at all, but we're gonna go over this in a second. When you're driving down I-75 from Ottawa to Cleveland or from Cleveland to Ottawa, you're pretty much going over a ridge. And there's a lot of trucks that go over this and it backs up traffic. So anytime you're traveling between Ottawa and Cleveland, you're likely going to be hit with traffic on the highway. Also, there's a fork, I-75 from Atlanta to Chattanooga turns into I-24 connecting Atlanta to Nashville, right? And so you have all these truckers, you have all these travelers traveling from Atlanta to Nashville. There can be a lot of congestion on I-24 and along that fork. But I used to live in Miami. And so when we're comparing like Miami to Chattanooga traffic, there's no comparison. Chattanooga is a breeze. The question number 4 is, what are the best neighborhoods to live in Chattanooga? So affordability is going to be one of the number 1 factors when determining what is the best neighborhood for you. So diving into a map right here, if you look at the red outline, that is giving you an idea of which areas have a Chattanooga address. So pretty much what it's going to be, it's going to be here in Hickson or south of Hickson. It's going to go extend into Lookout Valley, and then it's going to go to East Brainerd, the edge of Ottawa, and then we're going to head north a little bit. And a lot of times when I'm helping families and people move in the area, they don't necessarily want to be in Chattanooga. So we have downtown Chattanooga, we have Chattanooga proper, which is in this area, but we also have all of Hamilton County, which pretty much goes all the way up north along the lake up here down to the Georgia-Tennessee border, and it covers a very, very large area. So if you don't want a Chattanooga address, you don't need to be near Chattanooga. A lot of people, they like to move to Ottawa, right? They like to move to Appleton, or they want a lake. They want to be in a lake community in Ottawa, which is up north, or they want to be in Hickson, which is also a lake community. There's plenty of options for you, and it really just depends on your price range and affordability, and it's going to depend on your lifestyle as well. If you want a walkable area, then you're going to want to move to South Side, which is pretty much where everything is happening in Chattanooga. This is where a lot of your restaurants and breweries are going to be. And then here along Riverside, just along the river near Coolidge Park as well, super walkable, a ton of restaurants, a ton of coffee shops and ice cream and just a bunch of things to do. If you want to move to North Shore, super walkable as well, kind of hip. Right? The houses are very, very old. You'll see a lot of houses in the 20s, 30s, 40s. This is one of the most established areas in Chattanooga, and sometimes that's why it's so desirable. It's because it's so charming. So that's North Shore, and then you have some of the more desirable areas like Signal Mountain or Lookout Mountain, which is going to demand a higher price tag, but a lot of people like being on top of a mountain in a mountain community. If you find a brow lot, which is considered pretty much a lot that's on the side of the plateau, because that's really what the Cumberland Mountains are. It's a big plateau. And so a lot of times you can find brow lots along this edge with absolutely gorgeous views. Or if you want to move to a place where a lot of families are moving to, look at Ottawa. Ottawa is a great area with a ton of options for you. There's also there's a walkable area called Cambridge Square right in this area, which has a residential and a commercial zone. Now it's very, very small. This neighborhood is very small, but you do have the option of getting out of your house and walk into the little downtown area and grab some coffee, grab a bite to eat. Or you can go to the Honors Course, which by the way is the #1 rated golf course in all of Tennessee. So there are plenty of options for you depending on your goals. Now, question number 5 that I get is, what's the weather like in Chattanooga? So here in Eastern Tennessee, we do have all 4 seasons. We have a hot and humid summer, which is what we're in right now. We have a nice, pleasant fall with beautiful fall colors. We're seated in a mountain between two major mountain ranges. If you want to go to the east towards the Appalachian Mountains, oh my goodness, the views are incredible and the foliage is amazing. Same thing if you go west towards the Cumberland Mountains, which are a little bit closer. So the fall here is amazing. The weather is like perfect. It's nice and cool, not too hot, not too cold, and you get beautiful fall colors. Now, winter is my least favorite season here, and that's because there's a lot of cloud coverage and we don't get any snow really. And sometimes it can be rainy and dreary. So it's like not cold enough for it to snow, and it's not really warm enough to be somewhere like Florida. Some days it's very, very pleasant in the winter where the sun is shining and we get 60, 70 degree weather. Sometimes it's in the 40s and it's cold and rainy and it sucks. Now, spring is also a very, very pleasant season. The weather is nice and cool. Now, spring, I have to say, this is tornado season. Now, the last tornado that came through was back in 2020, which is now 4 years ago. And so tornadoes do not happen that often here at all, but it is just something that you have to be aware of. Also, if you live on top of a mountain, like on Lookout Mountain or in Signal Mountain, you'll see that the weather is actually like 5 to 10 degrees cooler, which is super nice. All in all, Chattanooga does have a very mild climate, especially when you compare it to states like Florida, right? I lived in Florida for a large part of my life. It is so dang hot and humid there for a large part of the year. It doesn't get as hot and humid as Florida. It does still get very, very hot and humid, but definitely not as much as Florida. And you also don't get crazy weather that Florida gets, like hurricanes. So in the West, you get wildfires. Down in Florida, you get hurricanes. Down in the Northeast and just the North in general, you get a ton of snow. Chattanooga and Tennessee, it's a middle state essentially, right? And so we don't get much of any of that. We get a tornado every once in a while, but so does everywhere else. And so overall, it's just very, very mild here. I love the weather. It's not too crazy. You don't need to prepare, for winter that much. It's just, you gotta prepare for the cloudiness and get all the sun in you can during the summer and fall. But it's honestly just really not that bad. So question number 6 is, what is there to do in Chattanooga? So as I mentioned before, Chattanooga pretty much has the best access to outdoor life in the Southeast by far. It's seated right in a mountain range between the Cumberland Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains. And that just gives you access to so much opportunity that the mountains have to offer. If you love hiking, if you love rock climbing, if you love boating, if you love mountain biking, if you love paragliding, then you will absolutely love Chattanooga. Pretty much anywhere that you live in Chattanooga, you're probably gonna be within a 30 to 45 minute drive of a major waterfall or a major state park or somewhere where you can go hiking, go mountain biking with beautiful views. Chattanooga also has a great bar and food scene as well. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not Nashville, this is not Knoxville. But if you only go out a few times a month, or if you just go out to a nice restaurant on the weekends, then you really won't run out of places to go here in Chattanooga. But if that's your thing, if you love city life, if you love going out every single night, you probably won't like Chattanooga. Knoxville or Nashville will be a better option for you. Now, question number 7 is, how's the traffic here? Well, it's not that bad right now, but it's getting worse. As more and more people move here, there are 3 people moving in for every 1 person moving out. And what that means, there's just gonna generally be more traffic. Now, as I mentioned, if you're looking on a map, if you're traveling from Ottawa to Cleveland or from Cleveland to Ottawa, you have to go over a ridge. There's a lot of truckers that are on the highway as well, which is slowing traffic down. So if you're traveling east to west or west to east from Cleveland, then you're likely going to hit traffic right in that middle ground. Another part where there's usually traffic is the fork where there's I-24 and I-75. So basically, everyone who's traveling from Atlanta to Nashville, they have to get on I-24, and it can get really, really backed up right here. If you're also living in Lookout Valley in a community like Black Creek, the only way to get to downtown Chattanooga is I-24, which is, again, usually backed up. It's not that bad though, because again, Chattanooga is just not that big at all. So the distance that you have to travel from somewhere like Lookout Valley to downtown Chattanooga, I mean, you're not gonna be sitting in traffic for very long, even if there is traffic. Now, question number 8 is, how is the real estate market? Well, prices are going up. The median home price in all of Chattanooga right now is $440,000. But again, it's largely dependent on really what suburb you live in, where exactly you live in this area. For example, if you live in Ottawa, the median home price in Ottawa is $520,000. But if you live in Hickson, the median home price is $439,000. In areas like North Shore, Signal Mountain, Lookout Mountain, some of the more desirable areas, you're gonna be spending around $700,000 plus. And number 9, our last question, is Chattanooga actually worth it? I'm obviously biased, but of course, guys, if you can afford it, if you can swing the move, Chattanooga is the best decision I've ever made to move here and stay here. Again, I've lived all over the United States. I've lived in Florida, North Carolina, California, Arizona, flip-flopping back and forth. I've lived in South America for a little bit, and I've decided to call Chattanooga home for a lot of the reasons listed in this video. It's a beautiful place to live with a lower cost of living, close to 4 major cities within a 2-hour drive while maintaining a small town vibe. You're also between 2 large mountain ranges and have great access to the outdoors and all that the mountains can provide you. I'm a big outdoorsy person and I love nature. I love being outside, and just with all of those combined, outdoor life, cost of living, and the people that I've met and cultivated relationships here, guys, this is the place to be. So guys, I hope you found a ton of value in this video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe. And again, guys, I am a licensed realtor, so feel free to contact me in any of the ways down below, and I will be absolutely happy to help you guys out. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.